Okay, it looks like I'm live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Two Psychiatrists and a Microphone. I am Dr. Bolanle at Akinrambi at Bright Minds MD. Dr. Bolanle, okay, I'm having a little bit of feedback. Okay, I'm just trying to fix this. I have a little bit of technical difficulty. Okay, this is Dr. Bolanle. I can run be psychiatrist and founder at Bright Minds MD. I am flying solo today as Dr. Zainab is away today, but I wanted to, come on and talk real briefly about Thanksgiving because it is the week of Thanksgiving. And in our psychiatric practices, we're getting, we get a lot of questions about stressors and things relating to this time. Thanksgiving stress is real. So let's just talk about it a little bit and address a question or questions that have been coming up relating to it. Um, and recent polls and surveys are showing that there is a big uptick in holiday stress this year, with about 41% of adults saying that they expect to have more holiday related stress this year. So it is a big deal. And why does it matter clinically? Especially, when we talk about, feeling stressed, lonely, isolated, these can have, they've been associated with worse health outcomes, including high risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, earlier mortality. So it's important that we talk about it and how to manage it. So I'll jump right into the question. One of the questions we've gotten says, hey, I've been on edge about Thanksgiving for weeks. Money's tight and I'm not close to family and I always feel lonely at dinner. Is this normal? And what can I actually do to not fall apart? So this is a very common question or a common sample of questions that we get. It's quite common. The holiday period heightens several stressors at once for many, namely financial pressure, change routines, and obligations, whether to travel or to host. And even for some people, there are reminders of loss. So these are some of the things that contribute to pressure around the holidays. Thanksgiving, Christmas coming up, Hanukkah, and all the other holidays that come up. So there's some of the pressures. And just I have a few simple, things that you can do as you start to contemplate this and have some stressors or pressure around this. First, I ask you to acknowledge your own feelings. Say to yourself, this is hard for me. And you can say to yourself or to someone you trust to reduce the shame around feeling how you feel about Thanksgiving. Because some people do feel not so great about not looking forward to Thanksgiving or feeling stressed about Thanksgiving or having trepidation around Thanksgiving. So I want to encourage you to acknowledge your feelings to yourself, name them, and acknowledge them to yourself that it can be quite normal and okay to feel this way, and a lot of people are feeling it. Second, I want you to encourage you to, make a decision. If you're anticipating gatherings, traveling, and all that. I mean, by now, most people have made travel plans if they're traveling, but for people who are local, make a decision about whether you actually have to be at gatherings, how you want to celebrate, how you're choosing to celebrate. Especially if it's, for this particular question, someone saying that they feel lonely around family anyway, and they're stressed in the lead up to it. I want to remind everyone that family can be chosen, not necessarily born all blood. So it's time maybe to start to think about what your family is or your family is, and if being with birth families are overly stressful and creating loneliness anyway, maybe think about time with chosen family. For people who are spending time with family and, making the decision that the overall experience is net positive despite the anxiety and trepidation associated, something that we can do is to set boundaries in advance. Essentially, decide in advance how long you'll stay, how you'll participate, what topics you'll avoid, and how you might excuse yourself if things get overwhelming. Think ahead of time about a short phrase that you can say, such as, I need some air, or I'm going to check in with XYZ without needing an apology. Practice this ahead of time. Think about it, especially if, this has been a repeated occurrence in past Thanksgiving dinners. You might have an idea what tends to create problems or situations where you tend to feel uncomfortable. And so anticipating ahead of time what these situations are and rehearsing for yourself what your exit strategy is when things get tough, that could be a good way to continue to feel a sense of calm and maintaining control, even as we go into these gatherings and celebrations. So there's just some tips for that. And thus, associated with that also, a hot topic is family conflict and fights during gatherings. So, and especially with current political environment, things that can come up are family fights, politics, old arguments that are unresolved, judgment about life choices. These are some things that always come up. So how do I stay calm and not wreck dinner? I would say the goal is not necessarily about the dinner, because the dinner should be for the people. So I would say that the goal for this, for gathering, your mind goal should not be about how you wreck dinner, but how you stay calm and enjoy the family gatherings. So here are 3 tactical moves that you can employ in these situations. One, if you tend to come from a family that has heavy or intense political arguments, especially people who belong to opposing political parties or political thoughts that tend to lead to fights, I would recommend sticking to neutral conversations. If this is not, if this creates anxiety for you and this is not how you want to engage during Thanksgiving, think about neutral conversations ahead of time. Sports, movies, a shared memory, things that bring the family together, that are less likely to create chaos and conflict. And think of those in your mind and stick to those. A second technique might be to use a gray rock technique, for hot button, hot conflict topics. Topics that are bound to create extra energy, extra negative energy, conflict, and fights. You may want to consider gray rocking your way through them. And I'll give you an example. Can you believe what these people are doing to the country? You might say something like, I hear you. By the way, did you try the potato pie? So that's a pivot. Essentially, using this conversational technique, you would, again, be having, you plan to have brief, non-engaging responses that are fairly neutral, and then pivot away to topics that feel comfortable, less stressful, and less conflict inducing. Again, this is for family gatherings and situations where you are anticipating, conflict, where these has been the theme for years, or this has happened during the year. You may want to employ these techniques again to help have calmer dinner, calmer conversation. So another example might be a common one. When are you finally going to get married? You can say, not sure. How was your drive up here today? So again, you're giving neutral, non-engaging, not very emotional responses and pivoting away quickly to something else. Another one that comes up for a lot of parents. For example, if a relative says, your kids are so spoiled, you're too soft. You may respond again with, I hear that. Can you hand me the cranberry sauce? So again, a very neutral, brief, not very engaging response, and then pivoting away to something else. Those are some ways that you can use this technique to diffuse potentially tense situation, keep things neutral, unemotional, so that things do not escalate. If someone gets aggressive in the room, right? So sometimes some families, especially with alcohol in the room, family dinners can get really spirited and devolve into fights and escalation. And this is a concern also that's come up. You may, I recommend preparing one sentence de-escalators, quick sentences that you can say and then prepare to quickly exit the room if things get too tense, too aggressive, too dysregulated. Some examples can be something like, I hear you, I'm not trying to upset you, I think we just see this differently. And then exit quickly because your safety and emotional regulation comes first. Another sentence could be, I hear that you feel strongly, I'm choosing not to debate right now. Or, I don't want this to escalate, so I'm taking a moment. Another can be, I'm stepping away for now, we can revisit this a little later. This allows quick de-escalation and an opportunity for you to be safe. Everyone gets regulated and you can get away from the situation. So in general, as we lead up to Thanksgiving and gatherings, I want to give you also some things you can do ahead of time to help yourself regulate it and feel better in control as you prepare. Look at the things you can control. We talked a little bit, and I talked a little bit ahead about how disrupted routines can be part of the stressor for the season. So keep every or most aspects of your routine that you have control over. Try to keep them as consistent as possible. The easier ones tend to be sleep routines and bedtimes, exercise. So you may be sleeping in a different bed. You may be sleeping with family in a different city, but try to go to bed around the same time that you normally go to bed, especially if you have kids. This could be very helpful. It can prevent the young ones from being overtired and becoming dysregulated. Even adults become dysregulated when they're off routine, off schedule, and sleeping a little later than usual for them. So I recommend trying to keep your the things you can control as much as possible is keeping your bedtime as close to your usual times as possible. Try to keep your movement, like your exercise, as consistent as possible. And that may mean if you're out of town, maybe you can walk in the neighborhood. If you don't have access to your usual routines, you can do YouTube videos, dances, keeping some level of movement, especially if that's part of your routine. Keep it as part of your routine to keep things as close to consistent as possible. I encourage people to set non-negotiable boundaries. For example, you can say, I'll participate or be at dinner for just 2 hours and we won't discuss politics. If you have some guiding directions for yourself as far as what you think you might be able to tolerate or cope with and still be able to enjoy yourself, it helps you feel in control ahead of time and reduce a level of anxiety. And I'm going to also recommend limiting alcohol as much as possible. Alcohol is a depressant, and holiday drinking often worsens mood and anxiety. So I want us to be mindful of how much alcohol consumption, we're participating in around this season as well. Now, if you have new symptoms and they're impairing, you're not sleeping, you can't work, you're having persistent, suicidal or self-harm thoughts, or you find that you're using substances more than usual, please reach out to your clinician. If you already have a psychiatrist or a therapist, please schedule a pre-holiday check-in to review your medications, your sleeping plans, your coping strategies. These are all very helpful to help ensure that you're able to enjoy the holidays, deal with any anxieties, and have potentially the best outcomes in this season. And if you're in the U.S., for immediate resources, you can always call 988 for crisis support. If you don't have a psychiatrist and don't have access to a therapist, you can also reach out to your primary care doctor. They can connect you to community programs. Many health systems offer group support and things like that during the season because it's a struggle for many, as the holidays begin and the gatherings and attendance stressors as we talked about. So that'll be all for today. Thank you for joining me or listening in later. Again, my name is Dr. Bolanle Akinrambi. I'm psychiatrist and founder at Bright Minds MD in New Jersey. And this is 2 psychiatrists on a microphone, although it's 1 psychiatrist in there today. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or a wonderful rest of your day today. And I hope you found something useful today listening to this. I hope you enjoyed Thanksgiving. Thank you for listening in. Bye-bye.